everyone. Thanks for tuning in today and welcome to another Ad Age Gen Z Roundtable. I'm Erica Wheelis, food marketing reporter here at Ad Age, and today we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl. Safe to say the Super Bowl is one of the biggest cultural moments of the year and a rare time when so many folks are watching a live event. But its main parts, the game, the ads, the halftime show, all resonate differently with different generations. So today we're going to dive into whether or not the Super Bowl holds the same cachet it does with Gen Z and hear what they want to see from advertisers and the role of social media. Our conversation today is going to be led by audience questions. So if you think of one, please put it in the comments and we will try to get to it. So here to share their thoughts on the Super Bowl today are Bree Dahlgren, Associate PR Consultant at Creative Strategies, Zach Honer, Senior Creative Strategist at Open Influence, and Serenity Griffin, Community Manager at Adolescent Content. Thank you all for being here. We're going to jump right into our first question here. And I really quickly just kind of want to set the stage. We're going to go around, and Zach, why don't we start with you? Basic question. How are you all planning to tune in to the Super Bowl this year? Do you have cable? Are you stealing a password? Are you going to do the Paramount login? Nickelodeon, maybe? What are you doing?
I am definitely going to be watching on Paramount, and I will definitely be stealing a login as well. I wouldn't even know how to access cable. But the Nickelodeon simulcast is interesting. I feel like it's like the melanification of the Super Bowl. So could be fun to tune into.
Serenity, what about you? How are you going to tune in?
I am going to be streaming from Paramount Plus, but for the most part, if I'm being honest, I'm just going to be keeping up on my phone with the conversations that are going to happen online. Super interested.
Okay. Bree, what about you?
Similarly, I'm going to be streaming from my friend's Paramount Plus. I've never watched the Super Bowl broadcast ever, so.
Okay, note to advertisers, Gen Z does not have cable. Thanks so much. All right, so kind of related to this, Serenity, you kind of touched on this, but I want to get into this a little bit more. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about your viewing habits. Like, are you fully tuned into the game? Are you doing the second screen? Are you purely there for the halftime show?
So, I think it's a little bit of a lot. So pretty much for the most part, I'm coming specifically for the ads because I work in advertising, but I think a lot of Gen Zers are not really into the actual gameplay per se. But I think as a Gen Zer, I am very interested in the conversations that are going to be held. And like the post-game memes. So I'm going to tune in via Paramount Plus, typically because I'm going to be on a plane. So I won't be able to stream live, but I do live in the South. And in the South, the morale around the Super Bowl, it's really like a lifestyle. It's a culture. So I would be at my parents' house watching their cable because, of course, I don't have cable. I have subscriptions. And I would be at a Super Bowl party. But for me, it's just going to be streaming. And I think that a lot of Gen Zers, or at least what I've been hearing from our internal communities called Youth Tellers at Adolescent, they're going to be tuning in via YouTube Live, via Paramount Plus. So I think for brands, if you're going to try to reach Gen Z authentically, you need to show up where they're going to be, which is going to be these streaming platforms, but also where they expect you to be. So maybe it's social media if you're going to put out your best ads, because we are going to just be scrolling on social media, trying to keep up with the conversations. The post-game memes are going to go crazy. So I'm super excited for those.
Okay, Bree, what about you? Are ads, halftime, the social media? How are you tuning in?
So the Super Bowl is historically the only game of the season that I watch. I'm going to be streaming it, and alongside that, I'm definitely going to be checking out short form content and keeping up with the memes to really engage in that conversation. And I just also want to see brands engage in those same conversations too.
Got it. Okay, Zach, how about you? Second screen?
Definitely. I think the only time I'll put my phone down is during the halftime show. That'll get my full attention.
Very nice. Okay. That's right. We have some data here that talks about like how Gen Z plans to tune in. So yeah, streaming on Paramount is definitely a part of that. The 40% from our Harris Poll data say clearly they have a cable login somehow. Good for you guys. I wanted to ask about the Nickelodeon simulcast in particular. So I know this is the first year that they'll get to do this. What are your thoughts on this? Like, is Gen Z into this? Or are there folks do you have friends who are interested in watching it that way?
Um, if I'm gonna be honest, and I'm just gonna be completely candid here, I did not find out that they were actually streaming from Nickelodeon until yesterday. And it was a team member that brought this up because we were all just kind of sitting around talking about how nostalgic it was when we would see the Nickelodeon SpongeBob characters show up during the game. And I thought that was super cool. And so we just casually researched if they'd be streaming live, and they are. So that was the first time that ever came up in the conversation. I don't know about you guys.
I hadn't heard that they were streaming until our prep call. I think that there are so many streaming platforms that there's this whole streaming war. It's a little bit hard to keep up with. So I would just stick to the platforms that I'm familiar with. And I don't think that people are so receptive to keep on adding to their bundles.
Makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
I do think it's interesting that it's like almost surreal in a way. It feels like an edit that might be made after the game, but in real time. Like the highlights that I saw from last year, like this explosion of slime during the touchdown or whatever. It's kind of fun. I don't know. I might be interested in watching it that way, just to make the experience maybe more engaging, funny even.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, Patrick Star narrating, a touchdown, I think but it's pretty funny. All right, we want to obviously, and so I know a couple of you said you're going to tune in for the ads, and I want to dig into this a little bit. Could you all talk a little bit, like, what do you like seeing in Super Bowl ads? I mean, traditionally brands pull celebrities or athletes, but like, what about influencers or like some other type of casting choice? Is there stuff that stands out to you that you're hoping to see?
I think for me, it's less so about who is in the ad, but having really exciting, unexpected partnerships really set ads apart. So I know Doritos, the Jack Harlow, Missy Elliott, Elton John, as well as the DoorDash with Maddie Matheson at the height of the Bears' popularity with Raekwon, the chef from Wu-Tang Clan. It's just really, really fun to see people that are figures across generations and interact with each other on that platform.
Ooh, interesting. Zach, what about you? What do you want to see in the ads?
I really like unexpected ads that just manage to surprise me, and I feel like it's kind of become the norm, these celebrity partnerships. I think I saw something that was like in the last 25 years, a third of all Super Bowl ads have featured celebrities. But for me, it's kind of like the ones that stand out are like Coinbase, who did that ad spot that was just a QR code bouncing across the screen, or I think it was Tubi then did that like interruptive ad spot where everyone went to like look for the remote to see if they accidentally sat on it or something. Um, or even like Tide ad, the Tide ad either last year or the year before, that kind of like was so meta in that it like referenced other ads and other brands and everything. So I think it's those like really surprising ads that really grab my attention.
I do remember this Tubi ad because we all turned around and yelled at my friend John. Sorry, John, that we thought you sat on the remote. Serenity, what about you? Who are you hoping to see, or what do you want to see?
For me, when it comes to an ad, I really like the nostalgic ads. I like the nostalgia feel. And I think specifically Gen Z is really nostalgic about the 90s. I mean, you can see this in the fashion that we're coming into, the songs that we like, the vibes we like to catch. It's very nostalgic. But also just like the funny ads. I think the humor of it all really just gives us a sense of escapism. And it helps us to escape like the harsh realities that we live. I mean, graduating during COVID, can't find a job, your friends are sick, the social anxiety. Let's not even get into the depression. It's just crazy. But the last thing I want to see when I'm tuning in is like a serious ad or like fear mongering or something that just makes me go, I don't want to see this anymore. This is too real for me. I'm retreating. So I do personally though. I like the mega influencers. I think celebrity ads. When I see celebrities that take on like a traditional like superhero role acting quirky, I think that is hilarious. And I think it resonates with me so much. Like if I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger being like the tooth fairy, that would be hilarious because it's not traditional. It's something that was so unexpected. And I also like the ads that don't seem addy. Like you don't know it's an ad until it hits you. And now you're just like, I've been sold. And I didn't even know I was being sold. So that's my favorite. That's what I'm looking for.
Ooh, I really like these. Okay, I actually like these a lot. The idea of like a character is known for one thing and we're going to put you as something else. But I like what Bree said about like keeping up with like who's happening with like you're on top of the pulse and culturally what's good with like the bear reference and stuff like that. We also had some data on this as well that a lot of Gen Z likes to see like TV or movie characters, athletes and celebrities are obviously up there. Influencers and animals. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Amazon ad last year with the dog, like they get the dog another dog. Like, I get it. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, we talked about like I want to talk a little bit about tone, like the nostalgia aspect of it. I don't know. Like Bree and Zach, what do you think here? Do you also have like the nostalgia thing, or is it more of like, yeah, it should be. It's funny. It's like the Super Bowl. We're trying to have fun.
I definitely love the nostalgia factor. I think it was like done really well with Alicia Silverstone in the Clueless like
Oh yeah.
ad. I forget who it was for. Rakuten, I think. Which I should remember the name. Yeah, Rakuten. But yeah, I like this fusing of like nostalgia with TV characters or movie characters that we really love. I feel like it either has to be super relevant, like maybe like White Lotus, or like you mentioned, The Bear, or it's got to go way back to like Mean Girls, cat way back. You know, like the Mean Girls reunion for a Walmart ad recently, stuff like that. That's the kind of nostalgia I love to see.
Yeah, and nostalgia is always great to see. It always tugs at your heartstrings and it makes you feel more engaged by advertisers that they're specifically reaching out to something that's nostalgic to kind of the youngest generation that's above the age of 18. I also like when they're playful and they don't take themselves too seriously and don't overdo it with the partnerships or like relying so much on the celebrity endorsements.
Interesting. All right, like a little bit of a shift here, but obviously nobody does an ad for the fun of an ad. There's ultimately like we'd love for you to buy something. Have you all ever bought from a brand or like reconsidered a brand after seeing their Super Bowl ad?
So if I'm being honest, oh, I hate to say this. Oh, I hate to say this, but I am not a Pringles fan, or at least I was not a Pringles fan. And it just seemed like the Pringle just wasn't appealing to me. I don't know what it was. But in 2020, there was a Pringles ad and I did a collaboration with Rick and Morty. And I am a super Rick and Morty fan. I want to say that's my favorite Super Bowl commercial of all time. And like I said, I didn't know it was an ad until it was an ad. And he was just going through the flavors and he was just like, Rick, we have the sour cream and onion, we have the pizza, we have blah, 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 blah. And I thought that was just super amazing. And now I'm just like, you know what? I could go for Pringles. Morty went for Pringles and I identify with Morty. So I could definitely do this. So I think that would be a time where I was converted.
Ooh, okay, interesting. Bree, what about you? Been swayed to buy anything?
I honestly, unfortunately, don't think that I have. I think that I'm more swayed with historical Super Bowl ads. So, like, if I'm going to a Super Bowl party, I'm more likely to bring like a Heineken situation because they're so dominant in advertising and just the experience of watching NFL. But I can't recall a time that I watched a Super Bowl ad and then bought the product.
I can't either, honestly. So there you go. Zach, what about you?
The first one that's coming to mind is Fenty Beauty, and this wasn't even an ad. It was just when Rihanna did the like light touch up during her halftime show. So yeah, definitely I'm most engaged during that segment of the stream for sure.
Very nice. Our Harris Poll data asked about this as well. Yeah, have you been influenced to purchase something? So a little over a quarter of Gen Z said, yeah, I would buy something after seeing it as a Super Bowl ad. 20% for millennials and really drops off for Gen X and for boomers. So sorry, brands. Maybe it doesn't resonate as quick as you want. Um, just a quick reminder to our audience to share any questions that you have, or just let us know where you're tuning in from. All right. We cannot talk about the Super Bowl, I think, without talking about the social media side of things, especially after everybody's like definitely gonna have that second screen with me. So let me start here. When it comes to Super Bowl ads, a lot of times brands will run a social ad, like social campaign alongside it. Do you all like seeing those? Do you want to see some like social content in tandem with the big ad, or are you like you don't have to do the big game ad? You could just run just the social thing, and I'll see it.
I think watching the game is a great platform to pick up on the conversations that are happening on social media. As much as I hate to say it, the tweets around Super Bowl and Super Bowl ads go really, really hard, and they're hilarious, really engaging. Um, so I definitely think that having the variety of on-screen ads and second screen ads is a perfect combination to engage our cohort.
I like to say that leading up to the Super Bowl, I like to see a lot of influencers and celebrities. Maybe I think they're good for PSAs if you're trying to promote brand awareness, not necessarily like a call to action, but brand awareness. Like, hey, we have this sale. Hey, we're doing this bundle. You can do this in preparation for your event. I think that's appropriate, and I really enjoy those because it's more so entertaining. But for a call to action, I think you should engage the micro influencers because they've built rapport with the niche audiences that they have developed over the years or however long they've been making content. And so if you want them to maybe do like a get ready with me, I'm using this product, or I'm using Velveeta cheese in my Rotel for the game. It's behind the scenes. Something that announces the product, I think should be more so geared with the micro influencers. And then the post game commentary is what I'm most interested about, like those post game memes. And I think if brands want to get in on the action, they just need to make sure that it is authentic to their brand and it's native for them. I think Wendy's does a great job at this, and I can totally see them getting in on the action because their social media, you can tell, is run by a Gen Zer, and I live for it. So I think they do a really great job. So part of it is being where Gen Z is going to be, which is streaming platforms, social media, etc. But the other half is being where Gen Z expects you to be. Because I don't expect to see an ad that has never targeted Gen Z, has never targeted youth audiences, never even talked about football, now trying to engage in the conversations. And a lot of times they say whenever a brand jumps into a conversation, the conversation is already dead. And so you don't want to be that brand that's jumping in, because then it's like that scene from Mean Girls where the girl's on stage trying to give her a little speech about her feelings and the guy's like, she doesn't even go here. It's embarrassing, and brands can be embarrassed too. So yeah.
Very true. Zach, what about you? When you were looking at social, like how are you following? Do you want to see stuff that's coming up to it, or is it more the post game?
I kind of love the lead up. Addison Rae is actually teasing what many are predicting to be a Super Bowl ad spot, which is interesting because we kind of rarely see influencers in the traditional television ad spots. But she's teasing something with nerds. There's going to be a special guest. So I'm excited about that, and it got a lot of engagement on TikTok so far and everything. And there's some really good case studies of other brands doing this successfully, like State Farm in 2023. Even though they had the naming rights to the venue itself, they kind of forewent actual television ad spot in favor of a social media campaign with Kabi Lame. And they did this really cool like UGC thing leading up to it, where people could basically enter for a chance to like appear in a video with Kabi. And it did really, really well. It garnered a lot of UGC. I think UGC is kind of a fraught topic, and especially on TikTok. It's hard to get audiences to actually pick up the phone and participate, but I think Super Bowl is when Gen Z audiences might be most primed to do so, especially when there's like a really cool ad opportunity like that.
And I just want to jump in and echo something really important that Serenity said about engaging micro influencers. Our feeds on socials are so curated these days that rarely we'll be seeing the massive millions and millions of followers influencers just organically pop up on our feeds. It's more so influencers that are similar to the communities that we're already engaging with. So to see brand partnerships in that space would really be a game changer. No pun intended.
Very nice. Okay, so aiming for and the higher engaged communities are with micro influencers, so that makes a lot of sense. Interesting. When we also talk, so we've talked about like the post game stuff and things like that. I want to ask specifically about Twitter and TikTok when it comes to after the game. Like, how have those fit in past years? How do you anticipate them fitting in this year?
I think that TikTok specifically can be utilized in such a special way, simply because if we're being honest, our attention spans, look at what short form video, TikTok, Reels have done to our attention span. Like, we want it now. We want it here and now. So I think this would be the time for brands to engage their very diverse and inclusive strategy teams, social media teams to get on it post game, so that you can be relevant to those conversations, because they are going to happen, most definitely. And I do see Twitter just going wild. Like last year when Rihanna announced her when her pregnancy announced itself, Twitter went wild, and I am going to call it Twitter. We're not at X yet. We're not there yet. But Twitter's going to go wild. And I think that brands can really capitalize off that if they do it right and they use the resources that they should have, a diverse and inclusive team.
Totally. Yeah. I think the like increase in SEO and like engagement around different brand hashtags like just skyrockets. Like last year it was huge for Tubi and Farmer's Dog and Rakuten and Fenty Beauty. So I think it's really important for brands to kind of prepare for audiences' next step from seeing the traditional ad spot on their screens to be searching it on social and be ready for that. And for audiences to be able to find something surprising and delightful when they do search it.
Makes sense. I want to take a couple of audience questions that we've had come in. One of them is from Eli in Los Angeles. If a Super Bowl commercial was interesting enough, would you share it, like reshare it on social media?
Maybe Instagram story. I think that that's the closest that I would get to resharing it.
What about the group chat? If you were like that, I really liked this one. Would you put it in the group chat?
I think if it personally resonates with me, or like it's an inside joke between me and my friend group, then obviously I'd be like, LOL, they're in our minds, or something similar. But I think that's really the only time I would share it amongst my peers, unless it's something that is trending on social media and I'm a part of that conversation and I just want to be in it. Then I would obviously share it. But other than that, I'm just not inclined to do so naturally.
Yeah, the tweets and the memes that stem from the ads are more so what I would be sharing, referencing back to them, to the ad itself.
Got it. We have another question from Martin. Zach, I know you brought up Coinbase's ad, so relevant. Do QR codes in TV commercials are you interested in those? Do you pick up your phone and scan them?
I think because they were kind of the first to do it in that way, it was so engaging, but now it'd kind of be like, I don't know, you'd have to change it up. You'd have to do something different. You'd have to like maybe no brand mention at all and just like a really interesting and entertaining skit or something, and then with a CTA that leads you to scan that QR code. But I think now that they did that in that way, it's like you've got to evolve. You've got to like remix it somehow.
I agree. I don't see myself scanning a QR code because I'm probably already on my phone. So I'm already entertained with what's going on. So I'm not going to stop what I'm doing to go pull up my camera, to scan the QR code, to then be rerouted to something else that I was not even interested in the first place. And that is just from my perspective.
Bree,
Even
what about you? Would you do it?
No, because even logistically, if you're at a bar or a party, all of a sudden everyone there is going to flock to the TV to scan the QR code. It seems a little bit unrealistic, but it always engages me for what it's worth.
Very
I
nice.
am
There's always somebody in the group that will do it, and we're just like, let us know what happens. Like, we're not all going to do it. Like, you do it and just let us know. I feel that. I know that we're kind of coming to the end, but we want to do this last question. I think this is good, from Jen in Nashville. Asks, the Super Bowl is obviously a huge cultural moment, but what are you bored of seeing? What would be your ideal way to participate? I like this. I think it's like, how would this evolve? Like, what are the parts that you like? What are the parts that you want to see change a little bit?
I want to see them lean in more to being a cultural moment instead of a championship sports game, and engage people who aren't tuning in the whole season or aren't necessarily tuning into football at all.
I like that. Zach
I
Serenity?
I really would like to see, and you know what? Come here. I'm gonna say something that would be revolutionary. And you can come back to this round table in a couple years and say Serenity told you first. VR. What I'm seeing amongst our communities at adolescent is the rising popularity in VR amongst Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And it would be super cool if there were some type of like VR Super Bowl watch party. That would be so lit because you have that field side experience. Like, I can feel the impact already. And just like Steve Jobs said 20 years ago, in 20 years, everyone's going to have a computer. So I stamp this right now. In 20 years, everyone's going to have VR. Everyone's going to have some type of goggle contact with glasses to watch it virtually. And I think that would be revolutionary. So if you want to get on that, I would definitely do so. I went to a New Year's Eve party virtually. I've been to concerts virtually, and it is amazing. I would love to see brands start incorporating VR into their campaigns. It'd be great.
I love that. In a similar vein, I would really like more companionship content opportunities. Like maybe ways that we could watch the game from different angles and lenses and perspectives. Like, I love the halftime show. I would love if instead of every ad break they were showing like stats or game replay, more like behind the scenes content leading up to the halftime show. And that's just me. So there's like a ton of different angles and lenses, I think, that could really create a more customized experience for viewers.
Yeah,
I would
think
also
a lot
love to see BTS with Usher. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Give it to me. 100%. Go ahead, Brie.
I think a lot of the tech that's emerging and developing would lend itself to a really enhanced viewer experience in a way that we haven't seen. Even getting different kind of AR augmented views of plays for the sports fans out there. I think there's a huge opportunity to tap into that.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think we could keep going on about this for like another 30 minutes. But I think sadly, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much again to our panelists, Bree, Serenity, and Zach, for their insights. A reminder to our audience as well that our Gen Z Summit is going to be on March 6th in New York City. You can check out the speakers and the agenda at adage.com/Gen Z Summit. Thanks for tuning in again, and we'll see you next time.